What's going on, everyone? So Kevin Durant told Joe Tsai he has two options: trade him or get rid of Steve Nash and get rid of Sean Marks, the GM and the head coach. And of course, Joe Tsai stuck by the organization because this is his organization. Kevin Durant doesn't have the power, nor is he worth the headache that he has caused Joe Tsai. And Kevin Durant hasn't even provided winning for this team, right? I mean, they have one playoff series win, just one, since he's gotten there. He's only played 90 games. If I was Joe Tsai, I would say the same thing. But this video isn't about Joe Tsai and Kevin Durant. This video is about the implications that this caused. Now, obviously, Kevin Durant is very likely to be traded. The Nets are back in negotiations with teams trying to move Kevin Durant, and he will likely go to the highest bidder, which right now the front runner is the Boston Celtics. Now, when it comes to Kyrie Irving, the Los Angeles Lakers are the team that, well, the only team that wants Kyrie Irving, and thus the Nets are very likely to trade Kyrie Irving to the Los Angeles Lakers. Well, we finally got a report, thanks to Jovan Buha, that says that the Lakers are finally going to go all in, that they're going to push their chips to the table to try to acquire Kyrie Irving. The Lakers are finally going to offer the 2 first-round picks, which in negotiations, that's the one thing that they've tried to preserve, is not trading both first-round picks. But with this news, if you're the Lakers, you're in the best interest to go all in, right? You know that they have to trade Kevin Durant. You know Kevin Durant forced the Brooklyn Nets' hand, and Joe Tsai basically called Kevin Durant out and said, hey, that's not happening. And so Kyrie Irving is the next casualty that'll end up being traded because the Nets aren't going to keep Kyrie Irving if they trade Kevin Durant. Makes no sense. You don't want the headache. You might as well get whatever assets that you can get for Kyrie Irving because he's not going to stay without Kevin Durant and this team. He doesn't like Steve Nash. He doesn't like Sean Marks, although there was a report, which we'll dive into a little later, about how Kyrie maybe doesn't feel that way, but it's kind of been something that has been brewing for some time. It wasn't even Kyrie that said he doesn't feel that way. It was his agent, which of course you're going to show face, especially with all the chaos and mess that is going on with the Nets organization. So Kyrie Irving is likely on his way out. And the Lakers would be in their best interest now to basically just say, hey, here, this is what we have. Here's everything we have. No negotiations, no nothing. Take it. You get 2 first-round picks, and we'll take Joe Harris very likely because that's what the Nets want. The Nets want the Lakers to take Joe Harris because they want to try to clear up some salary space. If Kyrie Irving just walked or they just traded Kyrie Irving, they don't clear up any salary space. They are still over the cap. And so they want to move Joe Harris because that's $18 million, $19 million next season roughly, that basically would be cleared off the books in a Russell Westbrook trade. Now, this means that Russell Westbrook would have to go to the Nets. The Nets would have to take Russell Westbrook. And I know many people think, no way, the Brooklyn Nets don't want Westbrook. They're not going to take Westbrook, this, that, and the other. Here's the thing. Kevin Durant is gone. And the fact that Kevin Durant is gone, what did Joe Tsai say? He's going to do what is in the best interest for the organization. And at this point, taking on Russell Westbrook means you get the most flexibility financially, and it also means that you get the most assets. Because if they force the Lakers to do a 3-team deal, now Brooklyn doesn't get those assets. And I know people look at it and go, well, Westbrook and Ben Simmons are going to be the worst combo ever. Here's the thing. They don't even know if Ben Simmons is going to play. He missed the entire season last year. And this would also be a way to kind of just say, hey, take your time, do what you got to do, get your mind right, get your body right, get back in. You don't have to try to force him or rush him to come back in. And then, he ends up sitting out and it becomes another disaster, another mess. You get Westbrook, Westbrook's going to show up, he's going to play. It's only for one season. It's one season that you got to run with Westbrook. Even if they do the Celtics deal, right? And they get Marcus Smart and Jaylen Brown, Westbrook would be nice next to them. It's Marcus Smart. You can shoot the ball. So can Jaylen Brown. You can kind of have that. If Ben Simmons is playing, you figure it out for a year. The Nets aren't going to be title contenders either way, so it doesn't matter. This is a move not just for this year, but for the future as well. You free up some cap space so you can make some moves next season beyond just if you trade for Kyrie Irving, you have no cap space. If you move off of Joe Harris, that frees you up about, I believe it's like 15 to 20 million that they would have. That could be enough to go get another guy, another piece to add to a Jaylen Brown, a Marcus Smart, and a Ben Simmons. So in this scenario, it would make sense because Brooklyn needs to recoup as many assets as possible. And the only way they can do that is to get Russell Westbrook. Because the Lakers, if they have to trade Westbrook to a third team, that third team isn't going to just do that out of the kindness of their heart. And the Nets know that. So if you're the Brooklyn Nets, you take on Westbrook for a year, you send out Joe Harris, maybe you send out, Patty Mills or something just to kind of free up more cap space. And then there you go. Like, everyone's happy. Everyone's off to the races. The Lakers get a couple shooters, a couple pieces, a couple rotation guys. They give up the 2 firsts, but they get the grand prize in Kyrie Irving. It's a win-win for everybody. And I know Brooklyn fans or people that just don't like Westbrook think that no team wants Westbrook. But hey, if you're the Brooklyn Nets, you got to trade Kevin Durant. This is the best case scenario. Now, some of you might be thinking, well, what happens if they don't trade Kevin Durant? Kevin Durant's not going to want to play with Russell Westbrook. Well, too bad. It doesn't matter. You want to be traded anyway. We're still going to have to trade you. So why would we care if we know we have to move you? Why do we care how you feel about playing next to this guy? This is the best scenario for this organization right now. You are not part of this organization because you want to leave and you want to get out of here. Not just that, but wouldn't that be like the ultimate smack in Kevin Durant's face? Like, hey, guess what? You get to play with Westbrook again for another year. But from a Brooklyn Nets standpoint, you also need to remain competitive. And even if you keep Kevin Durant, you know Russell Westbrook and Kevin Durant, they work together. You know that they're good enough to get pretty deep in the playoffs. You know that you're going to have that consistency. And at least Westbrook shows up. And that could always be your argument to Kevin Durant too. Look, Kyrie didn't show up for you. At least you know Westbrook is going to show up. The two of you work great in OKC. I know you didn't like it, but too bad. It's only for a year, and we're probably going to trade you anyway. But in OKC, you guys went to a finals. You went to a Western Conference finals. Like, I need you two to work it out until we can trade you, buddy. And Kevin Durant isn't the guy where he's just going to sit out and not play. So he's going to end up playing. And at this point, if you're Joe Tsai, if you're Sean Marks, especially if you're Sean Marks, you think Sean Marks cares what Kevin Durant thinks now? Sean Marks knows that Kevin Durant wants him fired. You think he's looking at it like, oh yeah, I know you want me fired, but I'm still going to do what you want me to do? No, they don't care. And this would be the best case scenario for the Brooklyn Nets because they would get more assets. Maybe you can get a THT in the deal, so that way you get a nice young asset, you get 2 first-round picks. It's a win for Brooklyn because at this point, you're just trying to recoup as many assets as possible. You know Kyrie Irving is out the door. You know you got to get rid of him. You know he's going to be traded. And so if you have to trade him, wouldn't you want you to get those assets rather than another team? Because you don't take on Westbrook. You're basically giving a free asset to another team for doing that, whether it's the Spurs or the Pacers or whatever. You know, unless they can work out a 3-team deal where like Miles Turner maybe goes, but the Indiana Pacers, they want 2 firsts for that deal. So now you get no first. Yeah, you get Miles Turner, and I think that would be great, especially if you could do the Celtics deal. I mean, imagine a starting 5 of Smart, Seth Curry, Jaylen Brown, Ben Simmons, and Miles Turner. Like, that's a really good starting 5. Problem is, Miles Turner is a free agent. What if he just leaves? Wouldn't you rather have those 2 first-round picks that you could use to trade or, in the future draft or whatever? Maybe you could work out some seconds and maybe, some pick swaps or something. There's options there if you're the Brooklyn Nets, and it would be in your best interest to take as many assets as possible, just like you're trying to do with the Kevin Durant deal. You do this with this. If you can move off of Joe Harris and, like I said, like a Patty Mills or something, then you're freeing up cap space for the following season. And now you might have enough money to go and get another max guy or pretty close to a max guy. And if you have Jaylen Brown, Marcus Smart, and Ben Simmons, you get another like max type guy. Hey, you're in a pretty good spot. Worst case scenario, you got trade assets and, a Ben Simmons if he plays well. You got, Marcus Smart. And you got 2 first-round picks plus whatever picks you get in the Celtics deal. You could end up with like 5 or 6 first-round picks that you could use in a deal to go trade for something else. It just, The only other option is you send to a third team and you get a trade exception. But if you don't use that trade exception, that's it. You don't get anything. And there's no guarantee that you're going to be in a position to be able to use that trade exception, other than like to take a bad contract or two. But if you're the Nets, why would you do that? It makes no sense. So if you're the Nets, the best case scenario is to just take Westbrook for a year. You know Kevin Durant is gone. If Kevin Durant wanted to stay, then yeah, I completely understand not wanting Westbrook. You know, if you like, let's say Kevin Durant said, hey, I'll stay, but I need you to trade Kyrie. Yeah, you're not taking on Westbrook. Unless Kevin Durant says, hey, I'll play with Westbrook for a year, you're not taking on Westbrook. But now in this scenario, you should take on Westbrook because, one, you need somebody that is going to show up and play night in and night out, because you cannot tank because the Houston Rockets own all of your draft picks and they're all unprotected. So Westbrook, at least you know he's going to play and show up night in and night out. And you got plenty of shooters on this team, which would be good and beneficial for Westbrook. And so you put yourself in a position to where it's like, okay, Westbrook does make sense. We don't know if Ben Simmons is going to play. Even if he does play, we figure it out. You know, we alternate him, whatever we got to do, put Ben Simmons in the dunker spot. We've seen Russell Westbrook work well with guys like Steven Adams who can't shoot, and it worked perfectly fine. There's ways to work it out, and again, it would only be 1 year. And if you're the Lakers, you're getting your guy in Kyrie Irving, you're taking on Joe Harris, which doesn't matter because you wanted Buddy Hield anyway. Also, Kyrie Irving, you would get his bird rights because Kyrie Irving opted into his deal. He didn't sign a new deal, or, you know, it wasn't a sign and trade or anything like that. So the Lakers would be getting Kyrie Irving's bird rights in the trade as well. So you could go over the cap for him. So it's a perfect scenario because you have LeBron. He can either sign the extension at that point or he could wait and see what happens, you know, give himself that flexibility. So maybe he could take a pay cut or something. But if you got Kyrie at that point, you don't really need to. Point is, you could go, you'd have Joe Harris, you'd have Anthony Davis on the roster next year, and that's about it, unless you keep THT. But you have basically, let's say you move THT, right? You'd still have Anthony Davis, you'd still have Joe Harris, and then you could even sign somebody else, whatever, say a Miles Turner, right? Say Miles Turner, because like I said, he's a free agent. Maybe he wants to come to the Lakers. You go sign Miles Turner, you sign LeBron James, and then you sign Kyrie Irving so you can go over the cap. And it's perfect. Man, it's all sunshines and rainbows for the Lakers. That is likely what is going to happen. This is a good sign in a good direction for the Lakers. It shows that the Lakers are now, you know, pushing their chips to the table to go all in. But as always, this is a discussion, so I want to hear from you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. What do you think of this news? Do you like it? Do you hate it? Are you excited for it? Do you think that, like, yes, finally, this is enough to get the deal done? Kyrie Irving's going to the Lakers. Do you think no? Kyrie Irving's going to stay with the Nets? However you feel about it, I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions down in the comment section below. One last little shameless plug is I did start As It Stands Lakers. It is a channel just like this, dedicated to only the Lakers, because the Lakers are my favorite team. And on this channel, As It Stands, I talk about all teams, all sports, stuff like that. We have football season coming up, so I'm definitely looking forward to that as well. And I just wanted to make a dedicated channel to the Lakers to give the ins and outs. Now, all the big stuff, all the big news and stuff, I will still post here on this channel. But if you want all the ins and outs and just rumors and theories and just discussions just strictly on the Lakers, link down in the description or in the comment section. Go check out the channel, subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it. That being said, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button, followed by the bell notification. Stay up to date with all things sports. Join this wonderful community and all of our discussions. I'll see you all in the next one. Thank you.